So tonight we're going to just review what a microboard is. We're going to hear these moms talk about their stories, and then we're going to move into questions. I would like everyone to, if they have a question right away when they hear something, to write it in the chat, and we'll save the questions to the end. Lots of times what we find is questions snowball, and it just helps all of our speakers stay on track. So a microboard is a committed group of family and friends who join together with the sole purpose of supporting one individual with a disability. It is a not-for-profit corporation. And the purpose is to uphold the person's voice and choice so they can live their best life. The most important thing about a microboard and the very top of our list for key values and principles is relationships. And um, I think that's where their strength lies, because each person has their own relationship with the person with a disability to help direct them in their best life. Second most important is everyone has the capacity for self-determination. It doesn't mean that you have to have money. It doesn't mean that you have to speak verbally. And it doesn't mean that you have to be able to put thoughts together in an understandable way in front of other people. It's everyone has the capacity for self-determination in their own way. All decisions made by a microboard are based on the person's wishes. I'm losing part of the slide, so I'm just going to, there we go, sorry. The person's wishes, their needs, interests, and supports their goals. What I like to say is it upholds my son's voice, but it also protects his vulnerabilities. So it's sort of that that dual thing, that the person is front and center in their own interests, and they have enough support around them to protect their vulnerabilities legally, medically, and otherwise. Every person has gifts to contribute to their friends, family, and community, and deserves an opportunity to do so. What I find most remarkable about this statement is every person has gifts. And I think that's the first beautiful thing our family discovered when the microboard came together. We all knew that David had gifts, but it's really nice to see the gifts unfold from the other microboard members, and it just strengthens the whole microboard. The role of a microboard is support and decision-making and person-centered approaches. So again, it is the person's voice, dreams, and wishes, sorry. It also expands connections and deepens relationships because it just, Karen, I know I'm missing something here. Can you help me out? About expanding the connections. Is this where we talk about the study?
We'll talk about it in the next slide. So yeah.
Okay, sorry. Okay. The microboard manages the not-for-profit. It helps to recruit and supervise support staff. It can receive and administer funding, and it can contract service providers and liaise with agencies. And that's a piece that we really like with our microboard, and can manage home and residential supports. It also interacts and liaises with trusts like ODSP, RDSP, etc. Just helps everything that the family does, the microboard can now work in that role. And then it promotes the succession planning and support for transition. And that's probably the biggest reason that people want to start considering microboards, because they start to think, what happens after me? So it's really nice to have some key players that really know your son or daughter, brother, sister very well, that can come along beside and take part in that person's life and be there when the succession is needed. A person has greater sense of independence and autonomy. So they are empowered to make decisions and express goals. And again, that has nothing to do with um, ability or disability. It's however that person expresses themselves, they are empowered by the microboard to express them. Supports all culturally and age appropriate, feel more connected to their community, and expands the number of people in a person's life. It reduces pressure and eases stress on primary caregivers. So I think I already said whatever the parents used to do, now there is a group of people, I'm going to say around a table, even though it's not, it doesn't have to be around a table, but now there's a group of people that helps with that stress, provides reassurance as primary caregivers age, and reduces the chance of a person going into crisis. Again, while that microboard is forming and getting strong, everybody is recognizing their strengths and gifts, and as well as the person at the center of the microboard. And so when that transition happens, it is less crisis for the person. And it eases the siblings or the next generation. So our family, that's probably the first thing we realized, is when we started talking about a microboard. David's two older sisters, literally, we watched their shoulders come down. They just thought, oh, good, there is a plan and there is going to be people. Yeah, it just eases the stress. Have I missed where we're talking about the study, Karen? Can you?
Sure, yeah, the benefits, especially on the person at the center of the microboard, was studied by University of British Columbia's Center for Citizenship and Inclusion. They followed a bunch of microboards for a couple of years, and these are the tangible benefits that they found impacted a person. So they were looking for that empowerment, autonomy, being able to express what they want for their life, and feeling that they actually had the support of those around them. So these benefits that Kathleen identified, as well as the ones on caregivers that just kind of bubbled up as a result, we're not just making them up. These were actually studied and vouched for.
Yes, thank you. I think we can go to the next slide. Oh, okay. So now we're going to hear from Alice Mainland and her son's story. Thank you, Alice.
Well, thank you very much, Kathleen. Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us tonight. I do apologize. I'm going to fess up right now. If I duplicate, please try my story. I apologize for that, but let's hope it's entertaining at least a little bit. Michael, our youngest son, he was born in 1979. His older brother was born in 1977. So they're very close together in age. However, they are seen on the left-hand side of the screen, the older brother in the top left, and Michael, our son, is in the lower right hand or left hand corner with somebody who invited him to participate in his wedding a number of years ago. Around the screen, you're also going to see some of the members of Michael's Microboard that are just getting together right now. We're in the forming stages, so that's kind of what I'm going to speak to tonight. But the dog in the upper right-hand corner, that's all Michael. He has a sense of humor, bar none. And he insisted that the dog had to sit at the table, and he put the hat and glasses on him. So the next slide, please. So my husband, Rick, and I, we live just outside of Stratford. Our son, and I apologize, I should have said he was 44 years old now. And he was born with a degenerative brain disorder. They weren't quite sure what it might be. When I say that, he's nonverbal to the most point, but he has an exceptional capability to be able to express what it is he needs, wants, or desires. And as I said before, great sense of humor. I try and pick it up from him. Michael graduated from high school in the year 2000. And that's when things changed for my husband and I. Unfortunately, when he graduated from high school, that meant Michael came home, because that's oftentimes what people do. They graduate to home. And that meant we went down to 1.5 incomes. And I'm quite sure other people can recognize the financial burdens that many of our families out there have realized because of this. But in 2005, we were so fortunate, and we're blessed to this day, that we received some individualized funding. And that funding was associated with another young man coming out of hospital, and he needed a roommate. And we were so grateful that the two of them were just two peas in a pod, and they got along famously. So we won the lottery that day. Next slide. So with that, the parents of the other young man, we started looking for rental homes for the guys to live in. And we looked at a variety of rentals that were within the community at the time, and just didn't feel comfortable with those being our son's forever home or forever rental home. So with my husband, the idea that he was returning to work, now that we had funding, we decided to make a choice of purchasing a purpose-built duplex. And in the first slide of the presentation, that was the home that we have purchased. My son and his roommate continue to live in the upper floor of that duplex, and his supportive neighbor, who monitors the guys overnight, lives on the lower level of the duplex. Eventually, that duplex is going to be monitored or be overseen by the Microboard. Today, mom and dad still oversee that duplex, but eventually it doesn't go into the trust, but it will be monitored by the Microboard and be part alongside the trust. Sorry about that, Karen. Next slide. So why was a Microboard important to me? Now, a little description about me. I am on Microboards Ontario as well as a director. But prior to that, I became the primary supportive family member for my older brother. I am so fortunate. I come from a family of 6, and I had two older siblings. The one just next to me in age his name was Allie. And boy, I wished I'd had that first name, but I got Alice instead. You know, he scored. But at any rate, he was born with Down syndrome. He had a wonderful, wonderful life, in as much that he did grow up in institutions, unfortunately, but the wonderful life came for him when he moved with L'Arche, when they opened some homes here in Stratford. So Alan was, kind of my guiding post in terms of when my brother came out of L'Arche into long-term care. I became the primary caregiver, so to speak, even though he was in long-term care. And I had to take on a role and a responsibility I'd never been prepared for. Nor did I even think or plan for. So you can see on the left-hand side, the the older man that moved into long-term care. The picture on the right-hand side is my brother about 10 to 11 months after moving into long-term care. So that was the other reason, I was a family member not prepared, but I was a family member not prepared for what might happen as we progress through life, or that succession planning, because of a lack of stimulation. And of course, he did have Alzheimer's at the time. He went downhill pretty quickly. And in long-term care, all I could think of is, this is not the life. And let me repeat that. This is not the life that I would like to see for my son. How can I prepare now to ensure some better form of life down the road? So that's kind of why microboards are important to me. The next slide. So what do I want for my son in his life? Well, on the upper left-hand side is my son, Michael. He's the one in the black t-shirt. He's sitting with three of his besties, or his posse. They're enjoying a picnic at, I think that was Godrich Beach. And that's the life I want for him. I want him to continue, as my husband and I age, I want him to continue to do all of the great things he does today. Hang out with neighbors, go to work, enjoy a good game of golf, help in the community. In the lower middle picture, you see him. He's actually at a roadblock doing the city parade that we had here in Stratford a couple of years ago. So it's all of those engaging activities. But as I age, I know I'm not going to be able to get out there with him in the community. So how are we going to ensure that these things continue to happen? So moving to the next slide. So here's where we are today. We made the decision to establish a microboard. The board members have been selected, and the best part about this, when we were asking people, not one person said no. And in fact, after we had our core group of about 6 or 7 people, they weren't all on the first page slide there. We've got even more. We had extras coming out of the woodwork saying, hey, can we be on this team? Hey, can we help? Hey, can we just learn? So we now have siblings of people who are on, that are going to be part of Michael's microboard. And we have their kids who want to be on this. One of them wants to be the associate fun police person. So she's going to work with the person who's supposed to be what we call the fun police. She called herself that. And they are going to work together to come up with ideas for Michael to ensure that the 3 of them come up with the ideas, not that they come up for him, that the 3 of them come up with some grand ideas that continue going years and years down the road. The next thing we're in the process of doing is training, or that we've already done, is making sure that our son, our oldest son, understands that he's not alone in this now. He now knows what a microboard is about, and he understands that there are more than just him and his wife that are responsible for looking after our son's needs outside of the normal day-to-day things that might happen for him. The reason why that's important is Michael continues to live and work here in Stratford, but his brother lives in St. Thomas. That's a good deal away, about an hour and 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So if somebody at the duplex needs to have a light bulb changed, he's probably not going to be able to make that drive in an hour and 15 minutes every day. So who's on the team that lives in Stratford that might be able to help with that? We've already got 2 takers that have said, hey, I'm here for you, Jeff, just give me a call. So it's that kind of that what we're seeing build is the people who are leaning on one another and excited to lean on one another. So what's our next steps? So what the team is doing now is we're looking at everybody's gift on that microboard. What is your gift and how might it enhance Michael's community, his spirituality, his work ethic, his ability to remain active. As I said, he loves golf. He loves axe throwing and darts. Anything with the target that kid can hit, loves to do it. So we're, as a group, going through what is it that we think you can most add to the team, and how does that fit and mesh into other people's gifts, and how would those gifts be something Michael would want to learn? Well, only Michael can tell us that, but it's that level of fun that we're having right now as we get to know each other. We're also working on developing our articles of incorporation and bylaws. So that's part of the not-for-profit, the background stuff. Boring details. We'll get to that. Next slide. So Michael's not-for-profit, or his microboard, is called M&M's Mini Board. He loves candy. He loves M&Ms. So he was the one that picked that one. These are the areas that we as a group are focusing on now. So we want to make sure everybody knows everything about this. So as a group, we're brainstorming relationships. We're brainstorming discovery and navigation of the community. We're brainstorming in a variety of elements that we can make sure it's not mom telling the team how this is going to work. This is everybody's input with Michael, trying to make sure that we cover all the steps that will make a full life for our son. Next slide. So I've already talked about a little bit about the benefits. Is we didn't want our eldest son to feel alone. We wanted to make sure he felt supported, and that distance where it may make the heart grow fonder, it does make it stressful if you have a need to be in the community at a moment's notice. We needed to make sure someone was available to help out on a variety of levels where, mom and dad would normally help out. The board will steer the transfer payment agency. So we don't hire people independently. We utilize a transfer payment agency, and that's St. Mary's Association. They have been absolutely wonderful, and quite frankly, I didn't want to deal with the whole issue surrounding dealing with people hiring and firing and those kinds of things. And we also, the other benefit, of course, is taking a look at, or somebody more than just a individual, but a team to manage the assets, which will be the duplex and the trust. The challenges, I should change this now. We've had so much fun getting started, so there's no challenge for us now, but it was, you know, making that first meeting, that second meeting. That other challenge I talked about is the fear of asking for support, that circle of friends to help, and everyone having enough time to meet. We still struggle a bit with this, that the technology of Zoom has eliminated this barrier for us. And that is that we are able to hold our meetings just by sending out a quick doodle poll, and then everybody is able to meet online, because some of us, there's more than a few of us who live outside of the city of Stratford. I think that's the end of mine. Yes, thank you very much. And now I'm going to move along to Wendy, who's going to be telling us about Evie's story.
Thanks, Alice. It's always great to hear about Michael's story. I've heard it a couple of times now, and I'm always so interested in what's happening with that microboard. It's really good to connect with other families who are on this journey. You know, I think we wouldn't have gotten this far if we hadn't had some really good support along the way. So our daughter Evie is 31 right now, and she has a microboard, and it's called Evie's Good Life Partners. You can take us ahead to the next slide. So in Evie's life, she has a sister, Claire. She has a dad, she has a mom, and we have a new family member, Liam, who is shown in this picture here. He and Claire are getting married in November, but he's very much a part of the family now, and Evie has just invited him to join her network. We wanted a microboard because we wanted a way to develop a succession plan that we could work on now, that we could start that flow into the future, and that we as parents could spend some time planning and directing this with Evie, to help set things up for a time when maybe we were no longer able to be active in her life. We also really wanted a microboard because while Claire is very connected to Evie, we in no way would want her to be on her own with some of the decisions and some of the care that is going to be needed in the future. We wanted Claire to have a team as well. And we wanted a microboard because we wanted to be able to share our values for Evie's life with others who would understand that and help carry them forward. You could switch slides there, Karen. Thank you. So Evie is an Anne of Green Gables fan in a big way. And in 2013, she established her Kindred Spirits Network, which has about 14 people in it at this point, because we've just included a couple more. So we typically, prior to the pandemic, would meet about 4 times a year. Network members would connect with Evie online, or they would, there would be phone calls. They would plan events with her. And so we saw the network as being a very important social support for Evie, and a true network of friends. Evie's found it difficult to make friends, I think, over her many years. She school was never great for her. She never really attended full time. She had a lot of sensory issues in that environment. And though there are some people in her life who are peers who she really likes, and she does have a boyfriend, she needed a really consistent and committed group of friends. So the network is an intentional group of friends who are all invited to deepen their relationship with Evie in her life. And I'll just mention that one of the kindred spirits has also now become part of our microboard. Okay, Karen, thanks. So we began talking about, we've got this great network of people, but we really need to think in a more concrete way about our future plans. So around 2018, we began to talk more about the future with Evie in a very direct way, thinking about who would you want to have there for you in the future, and what are the roles of all of the people that you have in your life now, and what kinds of things do mom and dad do, and what kinds of things that mom and dad do now could other people do in the future. So we began to have these conversations, and I think it's important to mention tonight that Elizabeth Bloomfield and Andrew Bloomfield were really pivotal in our early formations of the idea of microboards and arohas. And I say that because Andrew died recently, and that was such a great loss. They were real pioneers. So thank you to the Bloomfields. So Evie really benefits from having things drawn, and we got together with some key people and started to make some drawings of what her garden could look like, her garden of people. At this stage, and not so much now because I feel like there's been some real meaning communicated, but at this stage we were our biggest concern was to not charge ahead with this great idea and leave her behind. We wanted Evie to understand why we felt this was a good idea, why this was important, and we wanted to find a way to make this concept very real to her. So we spent a lot of time talking and drawing about it. You can take us forward, Karen. So here's some more talking and drawing. We did a path. Evie's had a number of paths in her life. I think 5 different times we have sat down with a big group of people to do a path planning session. She continues to plan with her independent facilitator. The picture in front is her most recent dreamstorming picture, where she's identified the things that are important to her and that she wants to do. These are really helpful drawings, and Evie loves the pictures, and she also really loves to read. So the words have meaning for her as well. Thanks, Karen. So when we started to make kind of more of a concrete idea of what was this going to look like, we started reaching out to people. And we took advantage of the pandemic when there was other things were not happening to try and make this happen. And our microboard was incorporated in 2021. We invited, on Evie's request, her cousin, and also a family friend to be part of the microboard, along with her sister Claire and her dad and myself and Evie. Evie's independent facilitator is also someone who attends microboard meetings and meets with Evie in between microboard meetings to talk about things that have happened and what kinds of information she might want to bring to the next meeting. So there's a lot of help from Evie's independent facilitator. In order to set up our microboard, go through the process of being a true board, writing bylaws and vision statements. We used Cameron Dearlove, who is a consultant in this area, and he was awesome. So that was our starting point. You can flip slides there, Karen. Thank you. Finding a name seems, like such a, I don't know, superficial thing to worry about, but it meant a lot. We knew it would mean a lot to Evie. And it also was another really good opportunity for conversation around what is a microboard and what does a microboard do? What is the role of a microboard? And so again, we went back to the literal drawing board with Evie and started to identify some words that might describe a microboard. And she chose out of that process, she chose the name of her microboard, which is Evie's Good Life Partners. So again, with Evie being the center of our thoughts as this entity was being created, we decided that Evie does like to read, as I said, and she really values repetition. So this is her statement about her microboard, and I'll read it to you. She reads this at the beginning of every microboard meeting. It takes her about 20 minutes to read it, sometimes half an hour. There's stopping and starting and stuttering, but she loves to do that. And we have all agreed that it is really important for her to do this at the beginning of every meeting. So she says, right now, Dad and Mom help me with my life. As I get older, I will need different people to help me with my life because Dad and Mom will get too old to help me. This is why I have a microboard. The name of my microboard is Evie's Good Life Partners. The people on my microboard are, and she lists the names of all the people. This is what my microboard will do. My microboard will listen to me and try to understand my needs. My microboard will help me with my money and my information. My microboard will make sure that my helpers and workers are listening to me, understanding me, keeping me safe and taking care of me. My microboard will speak for me about the help I need and the money I get. My microboard will make sure I have a safe home and will use my money to pay for where I live. My microboard will help me make decisions about staying healthy. When I sign this, it means I understand these things about my microboard. So that's been a really helpful tool for us. I cannot pretend that this was an easy process. I felt like I was stepping out of my comfort zone in a big way. There are people who have asked me to sit on boards in past years, and I've always said, no, I'm allergic to boards. Because I just found that it wasn't where my skills really shone. But here we were with a board of directors, and we were determined to figure out how to make it work. So, do I have the skills to do this? Well, I have some of the skills, but I'm also not doing it on my own. We have a really good, solid board of directors, and we have just invited a new member to be part of things who also has really good skills. So, and I feel like it's been really helpful for me to just be honest and say, I know you're telling me all this stuff, but I'm going to forget it. So how can I put this in a place where I can reread it and learn it, or how can I invest myself in that learning process? I was really, afraid that I was going to forget important stuff. Like, oh yeah, an annual general meeting. I think we're supposed to have one of those. Like it was a little daunting. Budgets and numbers, not my thing. So much to learn at a time in my life where I feel like, yeah, the learning stuff outside my comfort zone is harder now in my 60s than it might have been before. So anyway, this is all just part of the process. And as I say, we have a really good team, so I feel very supported even though I have doubts. Go ahead, Karen. These are a few things that have been said by the members of the Microboard. I love Evie and want to contribute to a safe and secure future for her through this Microboard. I also love her family and want to support them in their goal and establishing a safe and secure future for Evie. I was honored and pleased to be asked. What's not to love? Fantastic people, reports about PEI, discussions about Anne of Green Gables and the Bluebird of Happiness, the knowledge that some people still take village and community seriously. I also like learning about microboards. Someone else said, it's so great to get to know further some of the circle around Evie and to work with such a wonderful group of people who care about Evie and her family, want the best for Evie. Not only that, but a group who takes seriously being focused on Evie and her wishes. So that's the kind of spirit we want to foster within this group, within Evie's Microboard. And there's so much good energy there now. When I think of us kind of flowing ahead into the future, there's lots of reasons to be optimistic. So the next steps for Evie's Good Life Partners. Boy, we were sure disappointed. We had planned a big gathering with all of the network and the Microboard and Evie's paid supports, but the weather got in our way and we had to cancel it because there was a big snowstorm. So we have rescheduled that for April and are excited to have that in our future. Finding out about Microboard as employer and add another director to the group. So we've added another director to the group and also decided that we think our Microboard will not employ workers, that there are other ways that may suit us better. I'm presently working on a calendar year work plan, and with two of our network members, they're not really kind of entrenched in the day-to-day of Evie's life. And so we're trying to find ways to help connect them to that. And I just keep learning with the help of Microboards Ontario and other folks who are doing this. So thanks for hearing our story.
Thank you, Wendy. And Alice. I always love hearing your stories. And before I turn it back to Kathleen, I'm just going to jump in and get this out of the way so that I can stop sharing the screen and we can see each other, and you can ask them questions, as many questions as you would like. The first is, I just wanted to tell you quickly about our upcoming family networking forum. This is going to be in person on April 20th. It's a Saturday. It's from 9:30 to 4:30 in Richmond Hill at the Sheraton Parkway, Toronto North, or North Toronto. They keep changing the name around. And this will be a day-long day of learning, sharing, connecting with other parents. We have a session planned on succession planning. We have a report on caregiving in Canada. It's kind of a pan-Canadian view of some of the trends that are bubbling up in caregiving, and a bunch of other stuff. I will send out the link to you all tomorrow. It's $25, includes lunch and snacks, and we have some swag bags, and it will be a really great day. And then the other thing I wanted to announce is that we have just launched our peer mentorship program, and I come up with a more exciting name than that. But this is from feedback with families who do want to be able to reach out to other families who have created microboards or are in the process of creating microboards or have a question about microboards, but they want to talk to a family who's kind of going through it or who has been there. So we have 4 mentors, and that list is growing. 3 of them you heard from tonight, Kathleen, Wendy, and Alice, have all agreed to be mentors. And these are people you can just reach out to when it suits you. It's not a formal 2 hours on Monday morning kind of thing. It's, hey, I have a question. I'm going to send Wendy an email. Or maybe Kathleen will meet me for a coffee. Or, you know, I heard Alice talk about this thing. I'm going to reach out to her. It's a really informal way for you to connect with families when it works for you. So that is now available on our website, and we'll send out some information about that as well. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to Kathleen and stop the recording, and we'll open it up.
Thanks for your help, Karen. This is my first time ever for leading one of these evenings, so I was a little bit nervous to do so, but I really liked hearing your stories again, Alice and Wendy. Every time I think I hear something different, and I just love hearing from other family members. So